because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know. Now it's showtime.
It's the number 3 killer in America, and it doesn't have to be. It could have already happened to you or someone you love. We are going to talk about it on this anniversary day, so don't go anywhere. It is the Karel Show. I am Karel, so very glad you are joining me. It is the number 3 killer in the country. Heart disease, diabetes, and then medical mistakes. We don't talk about it a lot. The medical industry certainly doesn't want you to talk about it, and they certainly don't want you to be able to do anything about it. If you or a loved one are the victim of a medical mistake or have been in the past, you know how hard it is to hold the system accountable. The system is set up to protect the hospitals, the doctors, all by lawyers, none of which really care about you or your care, but really just care about protecting their fiscal bottom line. And in this country, there are so many medical mistakes and that have risen. This statistic didn't always be this, wasn't always this, but it's risen so much in the last 10 years that now medical mistakes are the number 3 cause of death. And that's why you need a patient advocate with you at all times, if you can have one, when encountering the medical facility. Now, 25 years ago today, I learned firsthand about medical mistakes. Oh, I had known about them before, but not in the way that I learned 25 years ago today. You see, 25 years ago yesterday, my late partner and I, Andrew Howard, were out partying at Long Beach Gay Pride Weekend. I was on drinking detention because the night before I got really drunk and we got into a terrible fight because we were Liz Taylor and Richard Burton. Some would say we were abusive, or I was abusive. We never hit him or anything, but you know, we got into some big fights on radio. We got into some big fights in reality. We were very passionate people. And so on that Sunday night, I was on drinking detention. So I was completely sober. So that Andrew took it upon himself to get drunk. And we had a great time at Pride. He was bopping people on the head with a feather that he had plucked out of the headdress of the Felipe from the Village People, and he was, poof, you're gay, poof, you're gay. We had gone to see Dame Edna Etheridge that day, my possums, and he loved that. He just had a really fun last day, including antagonizing me for being sober. We got home at 2 a.m. He made shrimp scampi wearing nothing but an apron. My friend Larry Flick was visiting from New York at the time. And I thought I was getting laid, actually, because he was running around in an apron with nothing on underneath making shrimp scampi. We danced to Chiquita by ABBA, danced all around the living room. And then I got tired. It was 3 a.m. and I went to bed a little grumpy because I thought we were going to have some fun. And then he just stayed up. So we woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and he was vomiting. And I just thought it was the alcohol, and since I couldn't drink, I was annoyed. And, you know, I'm like, oh, come back to bed. He goes, no, we need to go to the hospital. I said, for being drunk? It's like, I'm having a heart attack. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're 34 years old. You're not having a heart attack. He's like, I'm having a heart attack. Bring me to the hospital. So I got really annoyed. I did, because I was like, we're going to get there. We're going to go there at 4:30 in the morning. They're just going to give you some anti-nausea medicine, and you're going to be fine. And your chest hurts because you've been throwing up. But we went, and as we were driving, I said, here, we'll go to St. Mary's. And he said, no, we should go to Memorial. This is big. So I passed St. Mary's. And it took me a long time to deal with the fact that I could have taken him to St. Mary's. We got to Long Beach Memorial Hospital. He walks in and passes out on the floor, making a noise I have never heard anybody make in my life. I didn't know it at the time. It was a seizure. He passed out. He wet himself. He tensed up. The nurses acted like nothing was happening. The ER was in disarray. It was being remodeled. They just saunter over, call for a gurney. No one being like, urgent. So they get him to a room. I'm now terrified because I've never seen, he's never passed out before, and we've been through so much. And they get him in a room. They start asking me a billion questions about illegal drugs. And I assure them there are no illegal drugs on board. They tried to tell me, well, there could be. He could have gotten out of your sight. He could have done something you didn't know about. I'm like, you don't know us, do you? But
If
they
you're
had
not
their mind
visiting
made up.
reallykarel.com daily, you're missing out. Get the podcast, videos, and the blog, including recipes at reallykarel.com. That's really KAREL.com.
Showtime is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know.
So the nurses in the ER had their mind made up that we were just two drugged out queers on Gay Pride weekend. I'm not making that up. I got them later to admit that under deposition. They treated us differently because they thought we were two drugged out queers on Gay Pride weekend. They put him in his room. They do an EKG. It comes back abnormal. It says on the top, abnormal tracing, abnormal EKG. No medicine on board. None. I start freaking out, thinking they're not taking this seriously. I had no cell service in the ER, so I kept leaving him, trying to get a life flight ordered, calling Karen, calling his sister, because I knew this was serious. Something was going on. And suddenly I was no longer mad about going to the hospital. And time passes as I'm going in and out, trying to get him transferred, trying to get him out of this ER, because they refused to take us seriously. They insulted me so many times. Well, you don't know everything he does. You don't know every drug he takes. I'm all, honey, we've been together 11 and a half years. This man is never basically out of my sight. Don't tell me I don't know what drugs he does. He does 17 drugs. They're all AIDS drugs. Here's the list, because I carried it everywhere. So I begged them to take his heart attack seriously. They didn't. So then they transfer him to the CT scanner, and I'm like, oh, you're going to scan his heart. They're all, no, we're going to scan his head because he had a seizure. I said, a seizure is not the problem. It's his heart. He's been screaming for an hour that he's having a heart attack, and you guys will not take him seriously. They go into the scanner. They won't let me in, of course. And suddenly I hear the same noise that he made when he had the seizure. It's like a horrible snoring noise, like just a terrible noise. So I rush into the CT scanner. I open the door, and I'm all, he's having another seizure. And the lady goes, no, he's snoring. He's asleep. I'm all, bitch. I leave there. I run from the CT scanner room to the ER, physically grab a nurse and a doctor by the hand, physically, and yank them and pull them back to the CT room. They open the door. They go in. They close me out. The next thing I know, they're calling a code blue to the CT. In goes the crash cart. I'm outside the door trying to call Karen, trying to call everybody. Then they say, would you like to come in? Well, that's new. They've been treating me like I was a stranger, like I was nothing to him this whole time. And now they're all, do you want to come in? I go into the CT scanner room, and there is this horrible dance going on. There's a black man giving compressions to Andrew. And I could see on his chest where it was bruising. They never show you that on TV. And then they were shocking him. And they never show you on TV how when they shock the body, the person doesn't just do this. The whole body flails up. And then they're arguing over whether they gave him epi or whether they gave him this or whether how many amps of that. I went backwards to the wall and sort of shrank down. And then I got up and I walked over to him and I whispered in his ear and I said, Andy, your chest is really going to hurt tomorrow. And this is going to make a really great story for our show. But I really need you to wake up right now. Then they asked me if they'd like them to stop. And I said, stop? No, I want you to crack his chest. I want you to do what they do on TV, bring him back. And they couldn't. So I just sat down on the floor in this CT scanner room where they're working on him. And Karen walks in the door. Or no, I'm sorry. I get up because Karen texted that she's there. And I get up and I exit the room while they're still working on him. And she said, Boulay, where's Andrew? And I said, I think he's dead. And she's like, that's impossible. And we both walk back into the room, and they had just called the code. No one was working on him anymore. He was gone. I still can't believe that scene to this day. 25 years later that I lived it, and I can't believe it. They all of a sudden were telling us, then they found out who we were. And suddenly the whole hospital staff is there kissing my ass. And David Hall's there now, and Candy and Scott are almost there, and Karen's there, and I'm furious. And the nurse brings me and Karen into a room to tell us that they may never know why this happened, and they'll do an autopsy, but they think maybe it was a pulmonary embolism, and they just don't know. And I just kept looking at her going, I know why this happened. You ignored him saying he was having a heart attack. And every time she said it was God's will, there was a electrical panel that had a door, a little tin door that was open, and she closed it. And every time she said it was God's will or that they may never know, and I'm not making this up, Karen will tell you the same thing, that metal door flew open. Every time she mentioned God or, they may never know, the metal door on the electrical panel came open every single time. So I'm furious. I know that they messed up. I watched them mess up. So then the police arrive. And I think, oh, God, thank God they're going to arrest the doctor. They're going to arrest the nurses because they killed him. They didn't give him treatment. They thought we were just drugged out queers, and they killed him. So thank God the police are here. Little did I know the police were there to interrogate me. Because now they deemed the death suspicious. It wasn't suspicious to me. I watched everything that happened. They wrapped him up, let us say our goodbyes. David Hall went in with me. He still had the intubation tube in him. And I touched his hair and held his hand. And I didn't want to leave. Karen and David Hall had to literally carry me because I got to the front of the hospital and I grabbed the parking pole and I wouldn't let go because I thought I needed to go with him to the coroner's office because we had never been apart, sort of like me and Ember. We had never been, for the longest we'd been apart was 20 hours in 11 and a half years. And I knew something went wrong. I knew it in my heart. I, of course, started to blame myself. Why didn't I go left into St. Mary's? It was closer, and maybe they would have taken his heart attack more serious. Why didn't I get a helicopter there? We could afford it. Because I didn't know who to call. Why? Why didn't I take him more seriously at the house? Why didn't I demand? I was demanding. I was screaming, do something for an hour. I was like, do something. He said, give him an aspirin for the love of God. They gave him nothing. Nothing. There wasn't even an IV going. I knew from that moment on, I knew that I had to prove that they made a mistake. And that his doctors made a mistake. I had to prove it. His parents said they would help me with the wrongful death lawsuit because At the time, there was just domestic partnership, and even though Andrew and I were domestic partners, they didn't have the right to sue. So I had to rely on his parents, whom I didn't like, and they didn't believe me. And when you encounter medical errors, and the number 3 cause of death in this country, oftentimes people don't believe you. They don't believe your doctor messed up. They don't believe the nurse messed up. They don't believe the hospital messed up. So on the first day of the first deposition that was supposed to happen, after me taking a year to find a lawyer, no lawyer would represent me because I had no legal right to sue. So no gay lawyer would represent me. The Human Rights Campaign, Lambda Legal, none of them would help me. None. Finally, a gay lawyer that was a fan of ours in Century City on day 364 filed the lawsuit, but told me they would not represent me. They would file it so the statute of limitations didn't run out, but they wouldn't represent me. So they filed it on day 364, and finally I found a crazy lawyer in Long Beach named Michael Lotta, and he was a fan as well, and he took the case. The coroner called me directly to say he was a fan, that he couldn't believe it was Andrew lying on his table, and that he would find out why Andrew died. And he did. It was a blood clot that blocked 80% of the blood flow to his body. When he had the first seizure, that was the clot making itself known. The clot then moved in his artery. It moved. And blood flow went back to normal. It was in that time frame, that hour and a half, that they could have broken up that clot, even if they had just given him an aspirin. But they didn't take us seriously. They thought we were 2 drugged out queers on Gay Pride weekend. They could have busted the clot. They could have taken him to the cath lab. They could have done a lot. They did nothing. So armed with the autopsy report, me and Michael Lotta were about to do depositions. Andrew's parents bailed on me. They were supposed to be leaving Victorville to come to the deposition. They call me and say they just can't do it. So Michael says, we'll drop them from the case, but it's going to get thrown out. And that's when I learned that when you encounter a medical mistake, the chances of you making it right, of you getting a judgment, of you being able to sue for malpractice, 2%. 2% of all medical errors, the number 3 cause of death in the country, 2% of the cases lead to a judgment. 2%. 98% side for the doctor, or they settle before they get to court. And the amount is capped. In California, $250,000 is what you're worth dead. That's it. It's capped. George Bush Sr. did that. Capped wrongful death lawsuits. Tort reform, it's called. So the first time we went to court, it's called a summary judgment. The judge threw out the case because she said I had no standing. The opposition for Long Beach Memorial Hospital and Dr. Kushian called Andrew an alcoholic, which wasn't true. They called him a drug addict, which wasn't true. They lied, and I screamed at them in court. I screamed, "You're lying." And my counsel was like, "Calm down, Karel." So the judge said, "I'm throwing out the case. You have no standing." I looked up at her, and I said, "This isn't over." I then embarked on a 7-year journey because I challenged the law that said domestic partners couldn't sue for wrongful death. And it took 6 years of the lawyers treating me like shit, no one taking me seriously, no one believing me. Everybody thinking it was just some hurt guy who was trying to deal with his grief by going through the courts. 6 years later, the California Supreme Court where our case ended up after me testifying in Sacramento about why same-sex marriage needs to happen. It's when I first met Gavin Newsom. 6 years later, I was now working at KGO. I was at Red Lobster with Karen, not a vegan yet. And Mike Lotta calls me and says, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Why?" He said, "Because the California Supreme Court just sided with you and said that domestic partners should have the right to sue for wrongful death. Our case can proceed." 6 years of not being able to argue about Andrew and his death, but just having to argue that we counted enough to be able to sue. 6 years. 5 days later, we met with an arbitrator and all the lawyers. The arbitrator said to me, "My niece's lawsuit went through this morning because of you and because of Andrew." And I knew right then and there that's what the fight had been about. I knew that's what he would have wanted.
Patreon is the way to show you care. Subscribe today if you dare. Keep the show on there. Patreon is the way. Now it's showtime.
It's bad enough when a medical error happens to you, the number 3 cause of death in this country. What's worse is when people don't believe you, and then the courts make it impossible. I had to drop Long Beach Memorial Hospital from the lawsuit, even though I believe they were the biggest culprits. I hated their lawyer. Her name was Lynn. I can't stand her. Karma got her. Her son turned into a drug addict criminal. But our cardiologist, our expert, was asked if they had done everything right, would Andrew have lived? Well, no doctor can answer that 100%. They're not God. And that's just what the doctor said. The doctor said, "Well, I don't know if he would have lived, but he certainly had a better chance than them doing nothing." Because of that statement, we had to drop the hospital. They went back to court for summary judgment. They showed the judge the deposition of our expert saying that he wasn't 100% sure that Andrew would have lived even if they had brought him to the cath lab. But we did get the nurses to admit under oath in the deposition that they treated us differently because it was Gay Pride weekend. Andrew died because of homophobia. Not just a medical mistake, but a societal one. Telling that story right now just really killed me. I always joke that I had the easy part. I lived. But watching someone you love suffer from a medical mistake, the entire time I was in the ER, I knew. You guys know I know a lot about medicine. I knew they weren't taking it seriously. They weren't listening to me or to Andrew. They weren't listening. How many of you have encountered that? Where the doctor or the ER doctor or the nurse, they're not listening to you and they make a mistake. Countless times during his life, I had to stop them from giving him drugs because I knew they would interact with his AIDS medication. Countless times during his life, I had to stop them from making medical mistakes. Countless times. No, don't give him that drug. No, don't do this. No, he can't do that. Countless times during his life. And then even in his death, that horrible morning of May 21st, 2001, when the person I love more than anything on this planet got taken by a mistake. Now the number 3 cause of death in the country. Would we still be together now? I don't know. I was an asshole back then, and I can still be one. We fought a lot, and I was usually the one that was wrong, although he did like to play into my insecurities, and that wasn't good. He thought it would make me less insecure if he made me insecure. And it just always led to a fight. And Andrew and I had three-ways because he had AIDS and didn't want to die with me being the only person he slept with. He did, made it clear he didn't love these people or whatever, and I always had to be there and be present. But when you're insecure, you never really want to have a three-way. I did for him, but I didn't enjoy them. I know that sounds weird, but they always led to more jealousy than anything else. But there he was, dead in front of me, right there. I couldn't wake him up. I couldn't undo it. I was so out of control. Nothing that night went the way that I tried to make it. I couldn't get a helicopter there. I didn't know who to call. The staff at the ER wouldn't help me. Oh, he doesn't need to be life flighted anywhere. Yes, he does. Y'all are fucking up. No one would help me. Nobody would help him. And nobody would help me. We were just caught in this terrible, terrible mistake being made by the hospital and his doctor, Dr. Kushian. Later, Dr. Kushian would be prosecuted and go to jail for insurance fraud, injecting people with vitamins and charging the insurance company for these expensive AIDS treatments when he was just injecting people with vitamins. Dr. Kushian watched Andrew's lipids go through the roof while he was on the drug protease inhibitor Crixivan. Andrew was on the study for Crixivan. Andrew was on all of the magazines and newspapers when protease inhibitors broke, the drugs that are now keeping AIDS patients alive. Andrew was the face of those drugs. But what we now know about those drugs and what deaths like Andrew brought to light was that protease inhibitors shoot your cholesterol through the roof. That's why even now, if you go on Paxlovid, they tell you can only be on it for 10 days. Otherwise, you have to have your liver tested. Why? Cholesterol. Protease inhibitors raise the cholesterol. We didn't know it back then. So Dr. Kushian, his doctor, should have been monitoring his cholesterol more closely. His lipids, his triglycerides were like embers. They were in the thousands. His cholesterol was 480. And the doctor didn't have him on a statin. You can't take Crixivan or a protease inhibitor now, or PrEP, without being on a statin. Back then, we didn't know. Another medical mistake. So we dropped the hospital. I continued my suit against Dr. Kushian. 6 years later, the court said it could proceed. The mediator said to me that day, arbitrator, because of you and because of Andrew, 32 cases today in the state of California moved forward from other LGBTQ couples who were sub judice. They hadn't been thrown out of court yet. And your case allowed them to sue. I am told the case was in the legal books, that they teach it in law school. I had a law student contact me and send me the page, and it's taught in law school. His death by a medical mistake mattered, but it could have been prevented. And in this country, we've got to stop protecting doctors and hospitals when they're killing us in record numbers. Record numbers.
It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service. You're listening to the Karel Cast, driving you home or driving you crazy. It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service. You're listening to the Karel Cast. Driving you home or driving you crazy.
Now it's your time.
It's hard to go on right now because my heart just hurts. He was such a light, such a remarkable person, and loved his dogs, me, his friends, his family, our house, his garden, cooking. He did not like fame, but he did enjoy being a talk show host. He did. I remember 2 weeks before he died, he was in the hospital for something different, and I went on air with April Winchell, and he said to me, "Oh, they're already trying to replace me because I'm sick." I go, "No one is trying to replace you. They just didn't want, they asked if I didn't mind having April sit in instead, because you were in the hospital." I said, "But if it bothers you, I won't do the show. I'll call in sick." I called in sick. It bothered him. So while he was in the hospital, Karel and Andrew were off air. It didn't end up being Karel and April Winchell, or because it hurt his feelings. The guy who didn't want to be famous suddenly didn't want me doing a show without him. It hurt that no one believed me. And when you encounter a medical mistake, stick by your guns. Okay? How do you stop them from happening? Question everything. Make demands. Andrew was already in a room. He wasn't in nurse's triage. He was in a room because he had gone unconscious. A doctor had already seen him and then ordered the EKG. When it came back abnormal and I saw it abnormal, I took the paper and went around saying, "Where's his doctor? Get me his doctor." He's laying here saying, I'll never forget, I was being dramatic. I'm like, "Get me the doctor." And Andrew's all, "If you're going to be dramatic, go wait in the lobby." And I'm like, in fact, that might have been the last thing he ever said to me. It really might be. If you're going to be dramatic, go wait in the lobby. Because I was, "Get the doctor here. This says abnormal. Get me somebody. He's having a heart attack. He says he's give him an aspirin. Give him a clot buster." I mean, I was screaming these things. I was like, "Do something." And when they wouldn't, I was trying to get him out of there. I kept leaving to go outside and use the phone. I called 911. I said, "Send an ambulance. I need him taken to another hospital." They wouldn't because he was already at a hospital. But I'll pay. Then you'll have to call a private ambulance company. Nobody would come get him and get him out of that hospital. A hospital I brought him to at his request. I'll never forget walking back in that house at 6:15 that morning. And Allie and Owen ran to the back door, as they always do. And I walked in without Andrew, and the dog stayed by the garage because they're like, "Well, where is he?" And I looked at Allie and Owen waiting there for Andrew, and that was it. That was it. No one in this country should go through what Andrew went through and what I went through. No one. I always make the joke it's called the medical practice because they're practicing. They haven't gotten it right yet. And they haven't. For all the wonders modern medicine can do, they make mistakes. And they make mistakes often. Often enough to make medical mistakes the third cause of death in this country. And why isn't more done? Because they're shielded from their mistakes. When you sue a doctor for malpractice, it's not a criminal. I felt they were criminally negligent. Their actions or inaction led to the death of Andrew Howard. Why couldn't they be criminally prosecuted? I couldn't understand it. I called the DA. I'm like, if they weren't doctors, if you removed the title doctor and they did actions that let this person die, you would prosecute for manslaughter. But because they're doctors, it's a civil issue. Dead is dead. If a doctor is negligent, it should be criminal, not civil. And they were negligent. I can say it because I proved it in court. Well, we never got to court. My lawyer said that even though we won the right to go to court, in 2007,
If you're
George-
not visiting reallykarel.com daily, you're missing out. Get the podcast, videos, and the blog, including recipes at reallykarel.com. That's really KAREL.com.
Showtime is here, no time to fear. Karel is so near because showtime is here. So on with the show, let's give it a go. Karel is the one that you need to know.
Karel and Andrew live.
On a duo, Karel and Andrew. They've made radio history.
There's a new duo on the air who themselves are a hot topic. Their names are Karel and Andrew.
Joining us now is Karel Boulay, radio talk show host.
Hosts Karel and Andrew,
taking their message to anyone who'll listen.
Karel and Andrew live.
No. Nobody recommended that I seek therapy for putting Karel and Andrew on the radio.
Interviewing David Hall. Well, that's very interesting.
Karel says the things that need to be said. He's not afraid to walk right up to someone and say what he really thinks about how they look or what their opinion is or what they believe. And Andrew cuts off Karel at the knees surgically every single time. It's great.
David Hall is a programming genius.
I'm Terry Rayomer in the KFI News Center.
When I first started working with them, I started calling everyone I know and I said, get me out of here. Get me a new job, get me a new shift, get me away from these two men. They are a little strange, just a little bit strange. But I started to warm up to them, even though the big one dresses kind of odd.
KFI from the very beginning has been all about being different. And I got to tell you, there's nobody more different than Karel and Andrew.
For dinner. Number 9. Number 9. What are all these buttons here? Number 9. Okay. And what kind of drink would you like with that number 9? Diet Coke? Are you trying to cut down on your calories? What is a number 9 exactly? It's a fillet of fish. You know that's deep fried. If you're trying to cut back on your calories, you might want to go with a salad. Are you sure, Rosie? I'm just trying to help you.
The fun thing about Karel and Andrew is that it's a good story. It's a good success story. Because Karel and Andrew had not done talk radio before they were on KFI. And the person who was producing them initially sort of chastised Karel for sending his tape in because he basically said, you're not ready. And that's understandable that he would say that because they hadn't really had any background.
When you look up flamboyant in the dictionary, there is Karel's bleach, blonde, short, less weight than before head.
And Andrew probably can tolerate much more easily not being the center of attention, but is the smartest person in the room.
Hi, my name's Mary Sulphur. I'm from Lake Charles. I just love listening to y'all. It just puts me in a state of rapture. Now, I have 2 children, and I was just wondering, how did y'all get started in this?
Well, Mary, that is a good question. I mean, I was out doing my music at the time. I was out singing, promoting a record. I actually did a record. When I say I mean I. I executive produced it. I got it distributed. I did the artwork for it, had the photographs taken, everything, but pretty much pressed the thing myself and carry it to the stores. And it received some success, which shocked a lot of people, and myself included. And I was out touring with my show, doing it in Chicago, I believe, with Grace Jones and a bunch of other people. And John Jellybean Benitez saw me. He really helped Madonna. He was instrumental in her early career. And who didn't want to be Madonna?
If I ran away, I'd never have strength to go very far.
the beating of my heart.
My name is Myrna, and I'm a 30-something hairdresser from Montclair. And I was just wondering, Andrew, do you mind that Karel is always talking over you and he's much more flamboyant than you are?
Well, Myrna, nice hair, but let me tell you, Andrew is quite happy with the spotlight that he gets. I mean, Andrew's a stay-at-home writer.
And Andrew is a writer.
Andrew, I understand that you actually wrote a children's novel.
Yeah, a couple of them, actually.
Yeah. As an entertainment journalist for the last 20 years, I still write for Billboard magazine. I'm their soundtrack and film score editor. I gotta tell you, Andrew is a very prolific writer. He really, really is. He's just completed his second children's novel, and then he's written several screenplays, and they're all very, very good, but their storylines are a bit avant-garde. I think some of his best work are these 2 stage plays that he's written specifically for me. I mean, you don't know what it's like to have a partner so dedicated to progressing your talent and your future that they take the time to write 2 very good projects for you to star in. When someone does that for you, how do you repay that kindness except by taking that work and making it the absolute best that it can be?
AFI, AM 640, more stimulating talk radio. It is Karel and Andrew live. I am Karel.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're
It's 7 p.m. at one of the nation's most popular talk radio stations.
a 13-year-old girl who did not have to die. Her
Hosts Karel and Andrew talk about the same things all talk show hosts talk about, but these hosts are different. They are gay, and they're a couple.
Well, they're a couple. They're man, how do you say, man and husband? Boyfriend and boyfriend? I don't know.
Now, their rise in talk radio is absolutely meteoric. They've taken over the coveted afternoon drive time spot on KFI. And oh yeah, they're gay, and they are life partners.
For a uniquely gay point of view. For the first time ever anywhere in the country, an openly gay male couple now has an afternoon show. The first openly gay couple to ever host a radio talk show, Karel and Andrew took over the...
Hey, I have to ask you guys, because I know you're a couple on the air and off the air. That must be really difficult to have to work together all day and then go home and have to live with each other.
No, it's pretty easy. I just don't speak to him.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if I had a dime for every time someone asked us about this living and working together, how do you not kill each other? I think the people that ask those questions are people that are in bad relationships. I mean, we are so strong together.
You know, now I have to stay with this fool, you know? We were in the works of a divorce and everything, and now I gotta get rid of it. It's terrible.
We always hear about the gay agenda. No one ever carbon copied us on that, so I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I thought it was go to the gym, work out, buy some flowers, get some new draperies, shampoo the rug, have a fabulous dinner, and go to work.
But Karel and Andrew say there's been a backlash to going mainstream. They get more hate mail now from gay people than straight because they apparently don't toe the traditionally radical party
I
line.
think it was part of the problem that Ellen had. And she felt the big burden that the entire gay community put upon her as to be the representative for everyone. But, you know, gay people are made up of everybody, and we have completely different views than the mainstream gay community.
So you're trying to say that a family value is a wife at home who's pregnant, a man who's off at
that's
work,
what I'm saying. We'll
dreaming
never
about
have
his slippers he'll
No,
get
I'll
when he
say that
gets
we'll
home.
never have that family. That family does not exist. It exists only on television.
But what you're saying is that that's what they consider family values.
Yes,
a man
yes,
who's at work,
yes.
a woman who stays at home and who has children and plays
Yes.
cards with the
I
the
truly
ladies.
believe that George W. Bush would like to see families go back to that. And if your daughter gets pregnant, she carries it to term and you raise it there in the house. His ideal of what a family is that leave it to beaver mentality. I don't think he's modernized his view. How could he? Look at the family he grew up in.
Hi, I'm Margaret from Miami Beach, and listen, as a single woman, I find it hard to get everything done in a 24-hour period. So I'd like to ask Karel and Andrew just one thing about time, and that is, since you guys spend a lot of time traveling, going on location, doing all kinds of things, what would you like to spend more time doing?
You know, it's been an interesting journey from point A to point B. All the little stops along the way, and I don't think we're at point C yet. So we're writing a book called Guarded Optimism, Andrew and I. It chronicles our journeys along the way. So we're going to get that finished, get it out, get it published. Then, of course, we're going to get Andrew's screenplays actually produced as films. I mean, because every single one of them deserves to be a film, so we've got to get those produced and get those out there. And then I would really like to go into television much more. You know, maybe even do a talk show, move over Rosie O'Donnell and Oprah, here comes Karel sort of thing. And get into feature films. I really feel that Hollywood is ready. You know, I think Hollywood wasn't ready, but now with the success of Will and Grace and Ellen and everything else, I really think that Hollywood is really ready for someone as unique as myself and as a duo as interesting as Andrew and I. So the sky is really the limit when it comes to what's next.
Perhaps most surprising to Karel and Andrew is that one of their fans is Dr. Laura.
Because our show is really about giving people what they want to know.
Well, there that was. We were something, and a medical mistake took that from me. Just like a medical mistake could take that from you. Now, I don't like to argue with James Schnabel because he's smarter than I am, but I will disagree with him on one thing. He's a longtime listener who is in the chat room, and he's in the medical field. To him, he believes that criminal negligence is completely different from malpractice. I disagree. I totally disagree. If you take out a gun and you accidentally shoot someone, you didn't mean to, you didn't know it was loaded, you point it at them, you think it's empty, you fire it, and they die, you will be criminally charged with negligent manslaughter. You should have checked the gun, you should have checked, you made a mistake, but that mistake resulted in someone's death. That is the term manslaughter. We give doctors a pass on that because we know they're going to make mistakes because they're human. And sometimes their mistakes are going to end someone's life. It is the number 3 cause of death in the country. And to err is human. But the degree of the mistake should be taken into consideration. It really should be. Doctors every day are overtaxing their schedules. They're not spending enough time with patients. Now they're using AI. And they're making mistakes that result in someone's disability or death. And all they have to do is pay a fine. That's it. Not even them. Their insurance company pays a fine. They walk. They shouldn't. There should be some comeuppance if someone makes repeated mistakes that ends in someone dying. The medical profession protects itself from you. Now, I learned that firsthand. Try to sue a doctor. You can't even find... Do you know one of the hardest things to find is a lawyer for a malpractice case? Look at my shingles. The vaccine. I couldn't find anybody to sue GlaxoSmithKline when they never said that I could get muscle fasciculations or meningitis from the vaccine. A medical mistake was made. I was not informed what the vaccine could do to me. And I couldn't sue anybody. So I live with a leg that constantly moves. I lived with the fear of ALS, the terror of not knowing what was going to happen next, hospitalization for meningitis. All because a doctor never told me that could happen. We have got to reform the medical system in this country so that medical mistakes are not the number 3 cause of death. We have to. Because whatever we got going on now is not working. Whatever system we have now to protect you from medical errors, it's not working because they're the number 3 cause of death. So many times in a hospital, when I was in for my heart in April a year ago, they wanted to give me drugs that my cardiologist said no to. I called him before they injected me with the drugs. He said, no, do not let them give you amiodarone. No, do not take metropolol. And they were just ready to just load me up. When I went in for meningitis, they wanted me to be on heparin because they give everybody in the hospital heparin. Heparin is a severe blood thinner. It causes major side effects. I wasn't there for that. I was there for meningitis. I didn't need heparin. So I refused it. They got mad. I'm like, you're not giving me heparin. I don't need a blood thinner. I'm on an aspirin. I don't need a blood thinner. I'm here for meningitis. They got angry. I can't tell you how many times I made them angry with Andrew. as I insisted on being there at every test. I was there for every scan, every biopsy, everything. I was there. It was my right, and I did it. And I can't tell you how many mistakes I stopped. We have to protect ourselves because there's no accountability. Nurse makes a mistake, we just transfer them to a different ward.
Patreon is the way to show you care. Subscribe today if you dare. Keep the show on there. Patreon is the way. Now it's showtime.
On a made radio history. There's a new duo on the air who themselves are a hot topic. Their names are Karel and Andrew.
Stimulating talk radio. It is Karel and Andrew live. I am Karel. And I'm Andrew. And we're
It's 7 p.m. at one of the nation's most popular talk radio stations.
a 13-year-old girl who did not have to die. Her
Hosts Karel and Andrew talk about the same things all talk show hosts talk about, but these hosts are different. They are gay, and they're a couple.
Well, they're a couple. They're man, how do you say, man and husband? Boyfriend and boyfriend? I don't know.
Now, their rise in talk radio is absolutely meteoric. They've taken over the coveted afternoon drive time spot on KFI. And oh yeah, they're gay, and they are life partners.
For a uniquely gay point of view. For the first time ever anywhere in the country, an openly gay male couple now has an afternoon show. The first openly gay couple to ever host a radio talk show, Karel and Andrew took over the...
Hey, I have to ask you guys, because I know you're a couple on the air and off the air. That must be really difficult to have to work together all day and then go home and have to live with each other.
No, it's pretty easy. I just don't speak to him. Yeah.
Since you've been away, I've been down and lonely. Since you've been away, I've been thinking of you. Trying to understand the reasons you left me. What were you going through? Ooh, I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns. Ooh, I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns. As I look around, I see things that remind me. Just to see you smile made my heart fill with joy. I still recall all those dreams we shared together. Where did you run to, boy? Ooh, I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns. I'm missing you, yeah. Tell me why the road turns. Sometimes I wondered, I didn't understand just where you were trying to go. Well, only you knew the plan. And I tried to be there, but you wouldn't let me in. And now you're gone away, boy. I feel so broken-hearted. I knew the day we started that we were meant to be. If only you would let me. I cried so many tears. Gotta face down all my fears. We let time slip away. I need you, boy, here today. I had so much hope. I'm missing you. Tell me why the road must turn. Tell me why the road turns. Ooh, I'm missing you. Yeah. Tell me why the road turns. Tell me why. Tell me why the road must turn. Tell me why. Tell me why the road must turn.
And like so much in my life, it becomes a topic. 25 years later, a topic to talk about medical mistakes, something I learned about firsthand. I hope none of you ever have to sing a song like that because someone you love was taken by a mistake. We need to address that in this country. We need better reform. We need better accountability. Everybody should have a patient advocate that goes with them, a mother, brother, sister, cousin, neighbor. Question everything. Don't worry about being annoying. Don't worry about being a squeaky wheel. If you have a question about the care you're getting, if you don't like the care you're getting, ask to speak to the doctor's boss. Ask to speak to the chief of staff. If you don't like the hospital you're at, go to another one. This is your life. Before you take any medication a doctor gives you, double check it against all the medication you already take. Use AI, use ChatGPT. Type in the medication that you've been prescribed and what you're already on. Make sure there's no interactions. Question. Get answers before. Don't be silent. So many people are afraid to question their doctor, question their nurse. They're afraid to ask for bosses, for chiefs of staff, for the charge nurse. Don't be afraid. Advocate for yourself and for anybody else, because it is only through patient advocacy, it is only through you looking out and for others looking out for you that will reduce the numbers of mistakes. And yes, there should be criminal prosecution. I know that's unpopular, but if a doctor makes 3 mistakes that end in death, perhaps his license should be pulled. I am Karel. Be who you want to be. So long doesn't hurt anybody. I love you, Andrew Howard, still. Thank you for the family you gave me. No show on Monday because it's Memorial Day and you're going to go have a good time. Okay? Don't be listening to a podcast. Go have fun. We'll see you on Tuesday, and tomorrow there is a This Gay Week.
It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service. You're listening to the Karel Cast, driving you home or driving you crazy. It's broadcasting from a completely different point of view. Yours. Listen daily to the Karel Cast on your favorite streaming service.